Hello everyone, Zeno here. Here to bring in Season 2 Part 7 of What If TMNT Were Teleport in Avatar. Link down description of the fanfiction of this what if. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Chapter 13, The Shredder Dynasty. The mayor of New York City was in his personal office, trying to get over the amount of stress he was currently feeling. The New York police, as well as the justice force, had been working to evacuate most of the city, but the process was nothing short of stressful. However, this would be among the least of his worries as the entire office began to shake, much to his surprise. The ceiling crumbled, the chandelier falling and crushing his desk, as he tried to run and avoid the falling debris, tripping on his feet as he fell on the ground right by the door as the entire ceiling crumbled open. The mayor screamed as he saw the hovering figures of the Tengu Shredder and his 5 mystic heralds enter the office. The mayor attempted to run, which only earned an amused and evil laugh from the Shredder as he used his dark magic to lift him into the air before telekinetically slamming him into the wall to knock him unconscious. The Shredder gave something of a scoff as he voiced his thoughts aloud. This is the ruler of this land. How pathetic. Though in all honesty, it's rather fitting given the wanting nature of this world, especially this, New York, as the natives call it. It's better suited to fall into the ocean, than to hold the throne of the emperor. Master, while we agree this city leaves a lot to be desired, we have seen to it that a large majority of the Earth's natural mystic energy converges on this point. The water mystic informed. We spent years preparing for your return. The wind mystic added. The keystones are ready and need only wait for your simple touch, to bend this world to your will. Indeed. The Shredder stated, I can sense great power here, power that I shall use to remake this world in my own image. The Shredder dynasty begins anew. Today. The 5 mystics surrounded their master as they channeled their dark magic and projected it onto the Tengu Shredder. He absorbed and mixed the power with his own before blasting a beam of dark red energy straight into the sky before it stopped and created a dome of dark magic that had engulfed the building, and quickly began to expand and grow with no signs of slowing down. Everything inside the dark dome was instantly changed to match the dark reflection of the Shredder's own decayed soul. The mayor's building was transformed into a dark palace resembling something from feudal Japan. Everything else within the expanding dome was changed into the demonic hellscape of the Shredder's twisted imagination. Iroh stood at the front of the Nexus Shrine as a portal opened up and several individuals stepped out of the portal and into the new world. Most were recognizable, including Hakoda and Bato, both clad in armor of the Southern Water Tribe, even the anthropomorphic rabbit and rhino samurai duo of Usagi and Gen. Behind them were a quartet of new faces. At the lead was a teenage girl clad in red and green, something of a mix between Fire Nation and Earth Kingdom clothing, carrying a spiked meteor hammer on her person. There was also a large, overweight teenage boy with light green clothing, a pale-skinned, dark-haired young man clad in dark green, and finally a young girl with mostly white clothes. I am glad to see you all made it. Iroh greeted with a bow, which they all were able to return. It is a pleasure to meet you again, Dragon of the West. Usagi greeted. I only wish it was under better circumstances. Gen spat to the ground. Speak for yourself. I love a good fight. How are Bumi and the others doing? Iroh asked Hakoda specifically. The White Lotus are gathering as many of our friends and allies as they can. Hakoda answered. We only came because we got together to see if we can help in any way. They were pretty insistent they'd come, despite the fact that we need soldiers for this. Bato gestured to the 4 youths behind them. Hey, we can fight too. The youngest girl stated. Sifu Toph needs help, and we're gonna help her. Plus, I've always wanted to meet those turtle guys she speaks so highly of. Maybe we could have done that without getting involved in some super big fight, Penga. The large young man said. Oh, don't be such a chicken, Ho-Tun. Penga lightly scolded. Fear is necessary in humanity's spirit for survival. The pale-skinned boy said poetically. But as students of the strong Toph Beifong, we cannot afford the luxury of fear. Are you out of practice, the Dark One? Ho-Tun asked. Because that poem didn't even rhyme. Not all poems rhyme, idiot. The Dark One lightly chastised. Alright, that's enough. The teenage girl stopped their bickering before turning to Iroh. Look General Iroh, we might not be the best of the 4 nations, but we're here to help, and it sounds like you need all the help you can get it. Yes we do, Corey. Iroh acknowledged. However, this may very well be the most dangerous battle you've all ever faced. So, if you wish to leave, now is the time. My children are risking their lives fighting this, Tengu Shredder. Hakoda stood up seriously. If I simply stayed on the sidelines, I have no right to call myself their father. Same goes for me. Bato also stepped up. And from the sound of things, this evil will spread to our world as well. Usagi stepped up next alongside General. If it can be stopped here, I will do everything in my power to see to that. Iroh saw that each of them was willing to step up and fight this force of terrible evil, and while he was grateful for each of their support, there was also the strong possibility that none of them would survive. However, his thoughts were interrupted by a vibration in his robe. He was quick to pull out the shell cell the turtles had given him and taught him how to use. Hello, Iroh, have you gathered reinforcements? Karai asked on the other line. Yes Karai, Iroh answered. Not an army's worth, but we do have help. Good, bring them to April's residence. April responded. The Shredder has made his move. Turtles, lair. At the same time, Master Splinter sat in front of the gathered group consisting of Team Avatar and the Turtles, as well as the Ancient One. My sons, young ones, Master Splinter began to speak to all of them. Terrible nightmares have plagued me for some time now. Ooh, is it the one where you have a killer math test, and you show up late, and you're not wearing your shell? Mikey asked. Or what about the one where you try to dress up for a major battle, only to find out you're wearing your underwear? Sokka also asked, only to get smacked in the back of the head by the Ancient One along with Mikey. Ow, ow. Better to be silent and thought a fool, than open your mouths and be you too. The Ancient One told the pair. Ouch. Toph smirked at the burn. Please, continue Master Splinter. Aang gestured to the Rat Master as everyone else gave him their attention once more. In the dream, it is always night, Master Splinter began. The coldest night I have ever felt. We are all in a twisted wood somewhere in ancient Japan, watching a battle taking place between you, young Aang, and the Shredder in his monstrous dragon form. All the rest of us can do is watch, as you are the first to be brought down. Everyone looked in surprise, but none were more surprised than Aang and Katara, but they still allowed Splinter to continue. After you are defeated, the Shredder dons a demon horse and gives chase to the rest of us. Splinter continued. In the face of his might, we can only run. I am helpless to stop him, as he slays each and every one of you. If they weren't paying attention before, they were now as many of them, even Azula, looked nervous at one another. As he comes for me, my master Yoshi appears. That especially got Aang's attention. But before he can act, the Shredder attacks and then, Splinter stopped as a look of dread filled his face. I had hoped the dreams would stop, but instead, they are getting worse. And you've been having this dream every night? Zuko asked, to which Splinter nodded. It sounds a lot like those dreams I had before the day of Black Sun. Aang said. But each of them was different, it wasn't the same dream. But the dream was in Japan, right? Ty Lee asked. Well, this is New York City, so there's no chance of that happening in real life, right? Right, she asked in an incredibly nervous tone. You know, this whole magic premonition thing is getting real old. Toph commented. Old Buckethead wants to hunt us down, I say let him. We'll smash him deep into the ground. Are you forgetting what happened the last time we took on the Shredder? Azula questioned. We almost didn't make it. But we went all Dragon Mystic Avatar and sent Shredhead and his mystic buddies crashing down. Mikey stated. Yeah, so we'll go all Mystic Avatar again and we'll be all swoosh. Pow pow. Magic bending slice. Sokka motioned all sorts of action poses. Before anyone could respond, Leo's shell cell began to ring, which he was quick to answer. Hey April, everything okay? No Leo, it's not. You guys better get over here right away. The Turtles, Team Avatar, Splinter, and the Ancient One drove in the battle shell through the streets of New York toward April's place. However, as they drove, many of them spotted the ever-growing dark red energy dome that continued to engulf New York. What in the name of the spirits is that? Katara exclaimed upon seeing the dome. It is the end of life as we know it. Splinter answered gravely. Toph felt the magic presence via her Kai-enhanced seismic sensing with her tribunal amulet. Guys, that's the Shredder's power. Yeah, that's pretty much obvious. Mai pointed out. The Shredder's dark magic is enveloping the city. Master Splinter stated. Quickly, we must get to April's. Hit it, Donnie. Leo told his brother, who was at the driver's seat as he picked up speed in the battle shell. Anybody wanna tell us what's happening? Raph questioned. Aang was able to channel his own Kai, further enhanced with the Tribunal Amulet, so he could get a look inside the dome. Something akin to going on a spirit world journey, only his spirit did not leave his body. He could already see New York changing into something out of a horror show. Not only did the city and landscape change to something that can only be described as hell on earth, but even hordes of demonic beings and undead soldiers arose the ground and began to terrorize anybody that had not yet evacuated the city. The Avatar's eyes opened as he addressed his friends. The Shredder is changing New York. He's already in the process of turning this world into something of his own image. Aang is correct. The Ancient One already knew. The Ninja Tribunal always said that the evil Shredder longed to transform this world into a reflection of his own dark soul. A world full of demons and the undead. A world of chaos and pain. Then we better stop him. Zuko stated as the battle shell had pulled up to April's place. The large group consisting of Aang, Leo, Katara, Raph, Toph, Mikey, Sokka, Dawn, Zuko, Azula, Master Splinter, the Ancient One, Suki, Mai, and Ty Lee, had met up with April, Casey, Karai, Chaplin, and Leatherhead inside. While also meeting with Iroh, Hakoda, Bato, Usagi, Jen, Kori, Hotun, Penga, and the Dark One. Though they did exchange quick hellos and introductions, there wasn't enough time for any kind of reunions or meet and greets as they all compared notes and got right into the situation within April's living room. So, let me get this straight. Hakoda began. This demon Shredder is already trying to remake this world into a living nightmare filled with monsters, and he won't stop until he does the same to all our worlds. Yeah Dad, that pretty much sums it up. Sokka nodded. So how are we gonna stop him? Kori asked. Easy, knock right on his front door and pound his face in. Raph stated as he punched his fist into his palm. Oh, you are so brave, Raphael. Penga clung to his arm with a dreamy smile. I can see why Sifu Toph speaks highly of you. Save it for later, Lily Liver. Toph pulled the younger girl off Raph's arm. There is one thing I do not quite understand. Usagi pointed out. I can believe this demon is capable of transforming a whole world, but how can he do so for the entire cosmos? It should be impossible. Usagi is correct. In order to transform even a single world, one would require additional power. Iroh said. Master Splinter, the Ancient One, and I have all meditated on this. We have felt massive fluctuations within the city's ley lines. Ley lines? Katara asked as most of the group seemed rather confused. Any idea what they're talking about, Sifu Toph? Hotun asked his metal-bending teacher. I stopped trying to pay attention to all this mystic stuff a long time ago. Toph's eyelids lowered. April had brought out her laptop to show a GPS map of the city with a series of lines crisscrossing over New York to illustrate the ley lines as Splinter began to explain to everyone. You see, ley lines are hidden conduits of mystic energy that run throughout the planet. They are the essence of the Earth's very spirit. All worlds have ley lines, this world, the world of the four nations, and other dimensions as well. It is what enables to the nexus to connect to other worlds and form a bridge between them. An uncommon number of those lines converge in New York. The Ancient One said as he began to point to 5 spots on the computer screen where the ley lines intersected. Here, 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 and here. Karai's eyes widened in realization. The keystones. Chaplin, Leatherhead, tell them what we discovered. When the Mystics were freed after the Utrom Shredder was defeated, we did a lot of research into what they'd been up to on the sly. Chaplin began to explain. We learned that for decades, the Mystics blackmailed city officials into installing 5 keystones around the city. He said as he plugged a flash drive into April's computer to show 5 separate coordinates around the city where the ley lines converged. One is at the Statue of Liberty. Leatherhead began to list the locations. The second underneath the High Line at 18th Street, the third underneath the Brooklyn Bridge, the fourth at the United Nations building, and the final one at Manny's Meats in northern Manhattan. Our research has indicated that these keystones are magic amplifiers of solid elemental ectoplasm. But seeing how the keystones are set up on conjunctions of ley lines, whoever controlled them would have control over mystic energies of the whole planet. Chaplin stated, causing everyone to look in surprise. And if the Shredder could gain that kind of power, he would have more than enough to gain control of the Nexus and spread his influence into countless other worlds, including our own. Aang stated. And with each world he conquered, the more powerful he would become. So, we stop him here before he gets that far. Corey stated. Any idea how we're supposed to do that? Jen questioned. The veil of darkness is beginning to spread, only by the guiding hand of light can the evil end. The Dark One said, causing most of the group to look at him questionably. It means fight evil magic with good magic, that is what those ninja tribunal guys trained you for, correct? Then why didn't you just say that instead of going all poetic on us? Mikey questioned. He might actually be onto something, though. Azula said, getting everyone's attention. Our training with the tribunal has taught us that energy, be it mystic or otherwise, is neither good nor evil, it depends on the user. That being said, if the Shredder is capable of using the power of these keystones, then couldn't we? That's actually a really good idea. Sokka said with minor surprise. If we could use the keystones, we could take control of the Earth's mystic energy and turn it directly onto the Shredder, undoing everything he's doing to the city. Leo stated. We might even be able to weaken him enough to the point where we can stop him for good. Aang stood up on his feet. We can end the threat of the Tengu Shredder right here and now. Masters, is it possible for us to even use the keystones? Katara asked Splinter, Iroh, and the Ancient One specifically. Yes, it is possible. The Ancient One responded. You 10 acolytes were chosen by the tribunal and have since learned to harness your own inner mystic energy. You should indeed be able to harness the keystone's power. Well, looks like we have a plan. Zuko stated. We'll split into 5 teams and hit each keystone at the same time. Casey got a look out the window and saw that the dome of dark magic was growing with each passing second. Well, whatever we're doing, we better start doing it. And fast. Leo drove Turtle Taxi down the streets of New York with Zuko in the passenger seat, along with Azula, Iroh, and Mai in the back. Alright, we have 5 procurement teams, 1 for each keystone. Leo said as he wore a communications headset. So, let's sound off to make sure we're all online. I hear you, Leo. Aang said through his headset as he rode on Appa toward Liberty Island, with Karai, the Ancient One, Usagi, Jen, and Corey on the Sky Bison's saddle. We're on our way to the Statue of Liberty now. Check. Raph sound off as he drove the sewer sled along the East River with Toph sitting next to him, along with Hotun, Penga, and the Dark One squeezed in the back. Toph, her students, and I are on our way to the Brooklyn Bridge. This is Team Mikey, heading for Manny's Meats. Mikey also gave a sound off as he drove a foot transport that Karai lent him, with Katara, Hakoda, Bato, and Ty Lee also riding inside. Don here with Splinter, Sokka, Suki, and Leatherhead. Don made contact as he drove the battle shell with Sokka in the passenger seat and everyone else in the back. Wish we could give you more data on what these keystones look like, but we just don't have any. However, we do know this, when we find them, we gotta blast them with everything we got at the same time. Roger that, Donatello. April reported in from the Lair's computer systems, Chaplin sitting next to her, with Casey Jones present as well. Momo also perched himself on a computer, watching the group with interest. We're online and ready to coordinate the timing from here. The Turtle Taxi came to a stop at 18th Street right below the High Line as Leo, Zuko, Azula, Iroh, and Mai all stepped out. We're at the High Line, April. Leo contacted her. We'll let you know when we find that keystone. The group ran closer towards their destination. We're almost at the Statue of Liberty, we'll let you know when we find our keystone. Aang made contact as well right as Karai got up from the saddle and sat next to Aang on Appa's head. Karai. Aang, you do realize that if this doesn't work, we need some sort of backup plan to stop the Shredder. Karai told him. It's going to work, Aang stated firmly. But, why does it sound like you already thought of one? Karai gave a small sigh before speaking. When I couldn't find any records indicating a weakness Tengu Shredder might have, I went through my father's personal journal. Though I couldn't find any weakness there, I did find something rather interesting. And what would that be? Aang asked. My father did not simply take the name of the Shredder to just intimidate his foes. Karai answered. He felt by doing so, he could somehow harness the power of the demon for himself. Aang looked at Karai in surprise. Well, did he? I found no evidence, so I attempted to meditate and find it myself. Karai tried to explain. It's hard to put it into words, but I feel that whoever takes the mantle of the Shredder somehow creates some sort of link between them and the original demon. Karai, no offense, but I don't see how that is supposed to help us. Aang said. Chirel is gone, and even if we could find him, the last thing we'd want is for that monster to gain even more power from an even worse monster. Perhaps, but what if you had someone with you who knows the ways of a Shredder? Karai hinted. Someone who understands the methods of a Shredder, someone who was raised by a Shredder. It didn't take long for Aang to get what Karai was hinting at as he looked at her as if she had spontaneously grown a second head. No way. Absolutely not. Out of the question. We may not have a choice if our mission with the Keystones fail, Aang. Karai told him. But you're talking about taking the power from something that is just evil. Aang argued. We're not talking about simple energy, or even taking away someone's bending, that is the essence of an all-power demon. It turned a single human into a complete monster. I don't want my friend to go through that same thing. I'm not talking about absorbing all of his power. Karai explained. Just enough so that he's weakened. Your predecessor and the tribunal were unable to destroy him because his power was too great. But if his power is weakened, or even split apart, then we might be able to end him permanently. But still, to take in something like that, something so dark, so sinister, I can't. Aang, Karai put a firm hand on his shoulder. I understand your concern and I thank you for it. You know how much I value our friendship, but this is bigger than any individual here. We need every advantage we can get. No matter how much he wanted to deny it, Aang knew Karai had a point. The Tengu Shredder was the worst possible opponent they had ever faced. He had hoped beyond hope that their plan with the Keystones could stop the Shredder in his tracks, but if it didn't, Aang didn't even want to think about it. The last thing he wanted was to lose even a single friend, even if it was for the greater good. The Shredder's palace. From within the very center of the dome, the palace of the evil demon continued to give off bolts of dark red energy that fed the dome's power and increased its size, allowing more and more of the city to be engulfed into the dark magic and transformed. However, outside the palace, the 5 mystic ninjas suddenly appeared in the air. Do you sense it as well, brothers? The fire mystic asked his fellow elementals. The Avatar, the reptiles, the children, and their many allies, they all approach the Keystones. Shall we tell the master? And suffer his wrath for disturbing him? The metal mystic replied. Yes, we must deal with them ourselves. The earth mystic agreed as well. Then, let us awaken the wardens. The fire mystic declared. The foot transport came to a stop at the butcher's shop with the neon sign, Manny's Meats, written on it. Hey guys, we're at Manny's Meats. Mikey reported as he and his team consisting of Katara, Ty Lee, Hakoda, and Bato all came out and entered the alleyway behind the restaurant. Alright April, we're coming up on the Keystone. Katara said as the group looked around. Or at least where it's supposed to be. However, the group plugged their noses upon smelling the rotten meat in the garbage. Ah. Ew. Gross. Ty Lee tried to wave the stench away. Yeah, I've heard of black magic, but this is blech magic. Mikey winced with a joke. Whoa, what a stench. Not even newborn seals smelled this bad. Bato tried to plug his nose as well. Manny's moldy meats is more like it. Hakoda winced before getting serious. So where are we supposed to find this keystone thing? Right as he asked that, Katara and Mikey's amulets both began to glow, much to the group's surprise as they set their sights on a large stone built into the ground that had a rectangular cube base at the bottom with a pyramid at the top. Said stone began to glow with a mystic symbol and writing at the base. We found it, Katara stated with a smile. Yeah, this was a piece of cake. Mikey said overconfidently. This is gonna be so easy. However, in direct response, the ground behind them suddenly exploded as a massive column of air shot upward before it dispersed to reveal a giant mechanical being hovering in the air. It was made of a pale blue metal with its arms connected by cyclones of wind, and a flaming furnace underneath the chest plate with the foot symbol etched onto the chest. You just had to say something. Bato stated with a glare as he and Hakoda drew their weapons, along with Katara and Mikey while Ty Lee took a martial arts stance. The sewer sled came to a stop underneath the Brooklyn Bridge as Raph pulled it up to the wall before the red-clad turtle, along with Toph and her metal-bending students all got off and set on the ground to begin their search. "Okay, we're here. Now what?" Ho Tun asked. "Anybody even know what a keystone is?" "Well, the Ancient One said if we got close enough, we would feel it, or whatever that means," Toph pointed out. As they walked, however, both Raph and Toph's amulets began to glow as they set their eyes on the keystone that was embedded into the ground, that also had its own symbol and markings glowing on it. "Guess it's feeling us too," Raph said. "Great, so let's get to work," Penga said excitedly. "Hold it, kids." Raph stopped the students from doing anything. If those mystic goons set these things up, they probably got something sneaky planned, knowing those creeps. Toph's eyes widened as she felt something via her seismic sense. "Well, speak of the demon. Something's coming up fast." The ground behind them suddenly exploded outward as a mechanical being shot into the air and hovered above the shocked group. It appeared to be made of a shiny silver metal, its arms and legs having spikes at the end that were connected to the chest by constantly flowing liquid metal. It also had a furnace built inside that could be seen from the opening that resembled a foot insignia. "What is that thing?" Ho Tun said in a frightened tone as he looked the most frightened along with Penga, who hid behind Raph as he and Toph readied themselves for a fight. "The sentinel that guards the gate of the abyss, who prevents the light of the sun from bringing hope to this otherwise bleak horizon approaching," the Dark One said in poetic fashion, much to Raph and Toph's annoyance. Appa had just set down on Liberty Island as Aang, Karai, the Ancient One, Usagi, Jen, and Corey got off and begun to search the area. "Come on, let's find that keystone," Aang said as they looked around. "But, how do we know if we find it? I don't see anything here." However, Aang's amulet began to glow as he looked to see a stone, identical to the previous two, glowing to reveal its markings and symbol, revealing it to be the keystone. "I believe you spoke too soon, Avatar Aang," Usagi said. "I'm gonna take a wild guess here and say that's the keystone," Corey pointed out. "That is indeed correct," the Ancient One confirmed as the ground suddenly began to shake. "And I think we're about to have company, as well." They all looked towards the water, where the source of the shaking appeared to be as a giant figure shot out of the water. It was entirely mechanical as it appeared to be made from red metal, with flames coming out of its 4 pistons built in its shoulders, along with its arms and legs. It also had a raging furnace at the center with an opening shaped like the foot insignia carved into the chest. This mechanical beast shot a stream of fire from its right arm, forcing the group to dodge and avoid it. Having already arrived at the United Nations building, Dawn, Sokka, Master Splinter, Suki, and Leatherhead searched around the outside for anything they could identify as the keystone. "It's gotta be around here, someplace," Suki said. "Would be a lot easier if we knew what it looked like," Sokka pointed out as he and Dawn got closer to the building, with a series of chained blocks built around it. However, as they got closer, Dawn and Sokka's amulets began to glow, as did one block that was built differently from the others, revealing it to be the 4th keystone. "I'm guessing this is it," Dawn said. "Now to harness its energy. We must hurry," Leatherhead said. "I have a feeling that we're not, look out." The mutant alligator leapt to tackle Sokka and Suki out of the way as Master Splinter pushed Dawn aside to avoid a car that crashed into a window of the building. The group looked toward the enemy that threw it, and it appeared to be a giant mechanical being, its metal armor painted aqua blue, its arms and legs attached to its body by streaming water, with a foot insignia carved onto its chest to reveal the furnace inside. Master Splinter, any magic advice on how to deal with this thing?" Sokka asked as he and Dawn drew their respective weapons along with Suki as Leatherhead growled at the mechanical enemy. "Yes Sokka, hit it," Splinter stated. "Very, very hard." Meanwhile, Leo, Zuko, Azula, Iroh, and Mai looked underneath the high line for any sign of what they hoped would be a keystone, but so far had found nothing. "Nothing out of the ordinary, here. Anyone find anything?" "Nope, nothing over here," Zuko said as he looked around one area. "Well, we're on a time limit," Azula stated as she walked toward an odd-shaped stone alongside Mai. "Som, we need to." Suddenly, her amulet began to glow, followed by Zuko's and Leo's. Their eyes, as well as my and Iroh's, fell upon the stone in question as it showed its symbol and markings. Found it. My said as the group came together. Be wary. I sense. Suddenly Iroh turned around to shoot a powerful stream of fire to blast away a projectile rock as the group looked upward to see a mechanical enemy hovering over them. The being in question appeared to be made of a rusty, or just plain brown, metal. Its arms and legs being connected to the body by streams of mud and flowing dirt, with a foot insignia carved into its chest to reveal a furnace burning inside. Somehow, I'm not surprised. Mai commented as she, Leo, Iroh, Zuko, and Azula readied themselves for a fight. Turtles, Lair. How are we doing on time, Chaplain? April asked him as they continued to work at their respective computer stations. If my calculations are correct, we have 1 minute and 42.5 seconds before the Shredder's dark energy reaches the keystones. Chaplain reported. April gave a worried sigh. That's not long, she said before contacting everyone. Guys, we only got a minute and a half to do this. Is everyone in place? Manny's meets. Yeah, in place and about to be slammed by a wind warden. Mikey exclaimed as he dodged out of the way from a crushing blow from the wind warden's right arm that shot out via the cyclones at its joints. Katara pulled some water out of a nearby drain and formed a blob of it before shooting out shards of ice at the wind warden, but the ice bounced off its metallic hide with little issue before blasting a cyclone of air at Katara, though she was able to get out of the way thanks to the mystic boost in her speed. Hakoda, meanwhile, climbed up the ladder of a fire escape and jumped onto the shoulder of the wind warden and got to the area that he believed to be its head before drawing his sword and tried to slice at it, but his sword bounced off the metal surface before the wind warden spun its body at a rapid pace to throw Hakoda off. He would have crashed onto the ground had Mikey not zoomed in with his mystic speed to catch him. Katara, you and Mikey need to get to that keystone. The rest of us will hold this thing off. Bato stated as he threw a pair of bullets while Ty Lee threw a series of trash can lids like frisbees at the wind warden's chest to get its attention. However, the distraction appeared to be futile as the wind warden focused itself solely on Katara and Mikey before shooting out a pair of cyclones at the duo. Mikey backflipped out of the way and jumped to land on a shed roof, while Katara used her waterbending to create a makeshift shield to block the attack. Though it did block it, it also dispersed her water. I don't think that's gonna work. It's not after you, it's after us. Katara stated. We're gonna have to take it down then. Hakoda stated. Any idea how, though? Ty Lee asked as she and Bato tried to run and find cover to avoid the crushing strikes from the wind warden's arms. Statue of Liberty. Corey spun her morning star before throwing it out, using her earthbending to control its trajectory as it tangled around the fire warden's right arm. She tried to use her earthbending and natural strength to pull on it, but the fire warden proved to be much stronger as it heaved its right arm to pull Corey into the air. However, Aang was able to shoot himself into the air and grab Corey before she was sent flying. Though they were about to land in the ocean, Aang used his waterbending to freeze the patch of water below him into ice for a semi-solid landing. You alright? Aang asked. Yeah, look out. Corey's warning came just in time as the fire warden sent a blazing inferno their way from its shoulders. Aang used his airbending to propel himself into the air and avoid the blaze, jumping above the fire warden, and landing back on Liberty Island. The fire warden turned to the side to hear a familiar roar as Appa flew directly at it, rammed its horns into its chest. Though it did knock the fire warden back slightly, it tried to launch its arms at it like a series of missiles, prompting Appa to fly away. However, as the sky bison flew over the fire warden, his passengers being Usagi and Jen, leapt down to land on its shoulders as they each drew their respective swords to slice at its head. However, the fire warden's flames grew on its shoulders to blast the pair off of it. Fortunately, Usagi flipped to land on his feet on solid ground, as opposed to Jen who just landed flat on his face, though he recovered quickly enough. How are we supposed to stop this beast? Usagi questioned. It's made out of metal. You can't slice metal like flesh. Jen stated as they got up to run and avoid the strikes from its arms. The Ancient One got a good look at it, specifically the fire that was burning at the center of the mystic machine. The furnace. He called the warriors around him. We have to get past the chest plate and extinguish its inner fire. I'm on it. Aang pulled a massive amount of water out from the river around him and tried to focus it all on the furnace at the center of the Fire Warden's chest. However, the Fire Warden shot more fire from its shoulder pistons to meet the water attack and extinguish it, turning it into a large cloud of steam. Using the steam to her advantage, Karai tried to rush past it and jump onto the Fire Warden's body as she drew her magic tech sword and attempted to pierce its hull. She was able to successfully do that, but the fire around its body increased to blast Karai off before she flipped and landed on the ground. Everyone. Karai contacted all the other teams. The Warden's weaknesses are their furnaces. The flames at the center. Destroy them. Brooklyn Bridge. Easier said than done, Raph exclaimed through the comms as he backflipped to avoid the piercing claw strikes from the Metal Warden as a series of liquid metal tentacles produces from its sides to strike out with bladed tips at not just him, but also Toph as she tried to raise an earth wall to block the attack, but the metal easily pierced through, knocking her back across the ground. Raph tried to go on the attack as well as he leapt toward the back of the Metal Warden, but the liquid metal at its limbs condensed to form a thick shield that not even Raph could slice through, causing him to fall back before the Metal Warden lashed out its claws at him. Meanwhile, Toph's metal-bending students tried to come up with a plan of their own. "Look at that thing, that is metal bending," Ho Tun stated. "We gotta help my boyfriend Raph and Sifu Toph," Penga stated as she was about to run in, but the Dark One held out his hand to stop her from doing anything rash. The Dark One. She looked at her fellow student as he got a good look at it. "I think I have an idea," the Dark One said. "We'll use our metal bending." "Are you kidding me?" Ho Tun questioned. "We can't stop it. We can barely lift chunks of iron at this point." "No, I mean we take it apart and expose its furnace," the Dark One explained. "And we also use our metal bending on its metal body to keep it from moving." Penga looked at him in surprise. "Whoa, that could actually work. Come on, let's do this," the Dark One said as he, Ho Tun, and Penga took the stances that Toph taught them. Meanwhile, Raph and Toph stood at the Metal Warden's sides as it raised one of its arms to attack. However, it as well as the duo looked in surprise to see screws and pieces of metal coming loose from the Metal Warden's body, specifically around the chest area. The Metal Warden was almost suspended in midair as it felt its body coming apart. "What the?" Raph did not expect to see this, but Toph on the other hand smiled as she had a good idea who was doing this. "Nice going, dunderheads." The metal-bending students had a firm grip of the Metal Warden via their own art. "I got the right side," Ho Tun sounded off. "I got the left," Penga stated. "It's not going anywhere." The Dark One concentrated on the center area, and with a powerful heave, he pulled off a large portion of its frontmost chest to reveal the furnace inside. Sifu Toph. Raphael. Attack now. No time to question, both Raph and Toph began to glow with their respective aura and markings as Toph was on the attack first. "Let's go Yama." Toph slammed her hammers together to send a mystic shockwave traveling across the air toward the Metal Warden, who tried to bend all the liquid metal around its vulnerable spot, but once Toph's attack hit it, the liquid metal was blasted away, leaving it open for Raph to deliver the finishing move. "Give M shell, Banrai." Raph spun his weapon as he shot himself straight at the exposed furnace like a massive shuriken before blasting out of its back and landing behind it. What was left of the Metal Warden fell to the ground before it exploded. "Now that's what I'm talking about." "Raph." Penga quickly ran to hug him. "That was so cool. You're the best boyfriend ever." Raph himself chuckled as he ruffled her hair. "Wait a few years before you think about that stuff, kid." Toph smirked as she walked up toward Ho Tun and the Dark One. "Not bad, Lily Livers." She punched both her students in the arms. "Not bad. United Nations." Dawn ran and jumped to avoid the clawed strikes from the Water Warden as it extended its water joints to lash out at him. Leatherhead tried to back up his friend as he used his superior strength to throw a parked car at the Water Warden. However, a series of water tentacles emerged from its sides to slice away the car before it made contact, almost like an automated defense system. Regardless, this got the mechanical being's attention as it tried to lash out at Leatherhead. "We don't have a lot of time left," Dawn exclaimed. "We need to take this thing down now. But we gotta get through that shield of his to take out the furnace," Sokka stated. "But I don't think it's gonna give us a chance to do that." Meanwhile, Master Splinter and Suki both managed to climb onto the top of the side building just above the water warden. Suki and I will distract the beast. Splinter contacted them through their comms. Donatello, Sokka, get ready. Both of them leapt from the building and onto the water warden. Splinter pounded his staff onto its head to get its attention before jumping back onto the ground as the water warden focused its attention on them. That's right, big guy. Over here. Suki waved her arms as the water warden loomed over them. Sokka, I'll blow away its shield. Don told his friend. You deliver the finishing move. Don was already running toward its back as he began to shine his purple aura and markings before leaping into the air directly under the water warden. By Echo. Unleash the cleaving wind. Don had spun his staff to unleash a powerful vortex of purple wind upward to completely engulf the water warden and blow away its water tentacles and limbs, leaving it vulnerable for Sokka to run up as it looked to face him, his silver aura and markings already glowing. Light it up, Hikari. Sokka shot his sword forward to shoot a large, yet condensed, beam of light energy that pierced through the water warden's hull, destroying the furnace before it fell to the ground. It's gonna blow. Sokka warned everyone as he, Splinter, Don, Suki, and Leatherhead ran away from it before the water warden exploded, the shockwave knocking all of them back, but they were more or less alright. Manny's meats. Come on, Mikey. Katara called to the orange-clad turtle as he was already standing on the roof above the Wind Warden. We have to end this now. Mikey was already on it, as his orange aura and markings were already glowing. Go, Inazuma. He literally ran down the side of the building. The Wind Warden was ready to blast him, but Mikey attacked first, sending a bolt of orange lightning to blow away its right arm and send it crashing onto the wall, right in front of Katara who was standing on the edge of a smaller building. Let's finish this, Arashi. Katara's navy blue aura and markings began to glow before she fired a massive water arrow from her bow. The projectile not only pierced through the Wind Warden's body, but even extinguished the flames of the furnace inside. Hakoda, Bato, and Ty Lee looked in amazement at this display of power as what was left of the Wind Warden crashed onto the ground in flames. Hi 3 Katara. Mikey told her as she leapt down and they shared a high five. Ty Lee quickly ran up to both of them and wrapped her arms around both of them as Hakoda and Bato approached as well. Nice job, kids. Hakoda nodded in approval. So, got any idea where I can get some magic weapons? Bato asked in a joking sense. High line. Mai had already hopped onto the top of the high line as she threw some of her knives out towards the Earth Warden. She knew she couldn't stop it herself, but that wasn't her intent. Hey, up here. Mai called to the Earth Warden to get its attention as it hovered its way up toward her and lashed out its mud arms toward her. However, Leo was quick to zoom in, his bright blue aura and markings already glowing, as he sliced with his katanas to slice off the mud arms and keep it distracted. Hit it. Now. Leo called to the 3 firebenders as they were already in position. Iroh spun his fingers in a familiar formation as he generated a surge of electricity before shooting out his left hand to blast a bolt of lightning on its right side. At the same time, Zuko's red aura and markings were already glowing as he spun his sword. Gunshin, unleash the flames of the Dragon King. He shot his sword to blast a torrent of white fire at the left side of the Earth Warden. Both attacks hit at the same time, blasting away all the mud and rock it had as both offense and defense, exposing its furnace as Azula leapt onto the high line in front of it to deliver the finishing move. Hino Arashi. Azula was already shining with her azure blue aura and markings, launching herself while spinning her clawed weapon around herself to turn her body into a corkscrew missile-like projectile of blue flames and lightning. She easily blasted through the furnace, freezing most of the Earth Warden's chest in the process before landing behind it as it fell and crumbled onto the ground. Azula looked upward to see Leo and even Mai smiling as the turtle gave her a thumbs up, which she was quick to return as well. Statue of Liberty. Karai, the Ancient One, Usagi, Jen, and Kori stood at the base of the Statue of Liberty as the Fire Warden appeared to have them cornered. It launched a powerful inferno from its shoulder pistons directly at them. However, Aang was quick to fly in front of the attack, via an air sphere on his feet and catch the flames via firebending, while also entering the avatar state. He spun his body around as he combined airbending with the flames he caught and manipulated before throwing the amplified attack back at the Fire Warden. It easily blasted through its chest, obliterating the furnace before Avatar Aang sent another powerful air gust to blast what was left of the fire warden away so it wouldn't crash onto the island, just as it fell and sank into the water. Aang had left the Avatar state as he landed close to the keystone, followed by Karai, Usagi, the Ancient One, Kori, Jen, and even Appa who landed behind them. However, they didn't have the opportunity to celebrate as they saw the glowing red dark energy dome increasing even more, nearly engulfing all of New York. Guys, hurry. April contacted not just Aang's group, but all the other teams as well. The Shredder's dark energy is going to reach you in 16 seconds. We see it, April. Aang responded as Kori, Usagi, and Jen looked visibly intimidated by the sight of the powerful dark spell. Appa growled at it, as though he could sense the Shredder from it via his animal instincts. When I say, go, focus everything you have, into the keystone. The Ancient One said to Aang as the young Avatar stood in front of the keystone. His amulet began to shine, as did his arrow tattoos with their white glow. He concentrated as much of his own inner energy as he could into his hands as a sphere of white energy appeared in between his palms. Already, the Shredder's dark energy is a mere 5 feet away from them. Go, go, now, the Ancient One told him. Not needing to be told twice, Aang shot the sphere of white energy, which turned into a beam, directly into the keystone. The keystone itself surged with white energy as a bolt shot out from it and over the dome. At the same time, Leo, Zuko, Azula, Iroh, and Mai from below the high line, saw the dome almost reaching their location as well. Zuko, Azula, Leonardo. Focus your energy into the keystone. Iroh told the trio. Do it, now. Glowing their respective auras and markings, Zuko aimed Gunshin at the keystone, with Azula doing the same with Hinoarashi, and Leo simply pointing both his katanas. All three of them channeled their Kai and shot beams of their energy into the keystone, activating its power and sending a white bolt surging over the dome. Meanwhile, at the United Nations, Dawn, Sokka, Master Splinter, Suki, and Leatherhead surrounded the keystone at their location as they saw the dome of dark energy inching ever closer. Dawn, Sokka, it's almost at the UN. April contacted them. It's now or never, you have to do exactly as Leo and Aang's teams did. Without a moment of hesitation, Dawn and Sokka began to glow with their own aura and markings before they trusted Byakko and Hikari respectively, shooting blasts of their Kai at the keystone, causing it to surge with white energy before a bolt of the same type of magic shot up and over the dome of dark magic. At the same time, Toph, Raph, the Dark One, Hotun, and Penga saw the dome of dark magic approaching them from their location at the Brooklyn Bridge. Whoa, that's a lot of bad energy. Hotun was already shivering in his spot. Sifu Toph, Raphael, any moment now. The Dark One urged. What happened to your poetry? Penga asked him. Kinda hard to converse a poem when I'm completely freaked out. The Dark One exclaimed. Hold your horses guys, we're on it. Toph stated as she and Raph began to glow with their respective aura and markings before they thrusted Yama and Banrai to blast beams of their Kai into the keystone, causing it to surge with white energy, and blasting a bolt of the same stuff straight over the approaching dome. Back at Manny's Meats, even though most of the area was obscured in the back alleyway, Katara, Mikey, Ty Lee, Hakoda, and Bato could see the massive dome of dark magic getting closer and closer by the second. Mikey, Katara, you're up. April contacted them. No time to waste, both of them were glowing with their respective aura and markings already as they aimed Inazuma and Arashi at the keystone before blasting their Kai at it. The keystone surged with a massive amount of white energy before a bolt shot out and over the dark red dome. Since all 5 keystones were activated at the exact same time, all 5 bolts shot over the dome and met at the center above it before they condensed and fired a single conjoined beam of white energy into the dome, causing it to turn from blood red to a bright white right before it began to shrink and condense back toward the epicenter. As it shrunk, all of New York slowly began to transform back from its hellish appearance into the normal city that it had always been. All the buildings went back to normal, just as all the undead soldiers and demonic forces inside were wiped from existence with the passing of the shirking white dome. From the lair, April, Casey, and Chaplin could see the shrinking energy from the computer screens as they looked on with wide smiles. You did it. April contacted all the teams. It's working. Way to go everyone. Yahoo! Casey cheered as he shared a high five with Chaplin, even Momo gave a celebratory chirp. Back at the Shredder's palace, the surging dark magic at the top began to flicker and glitch. The mystic ninjas looked at the approaching light magic with dread and fear. However, that dread would only increase as the Shredder himself appeared in a surge of dark green energy and he looked more than a little furious. "What have you done?" the Tengu Shredder questioned. "Something is blocking my power. What is happening?" With a great deal of nervousness, the mystics floated down and kneeled to their master. We did not wish to disturb you," the Earth mystic stuttered. "The Avatar, and the turtles, they and their friends, they found the keystones and they discovered the keystones, and you chose not to tell me." The Shredder asked enraged before he blasted all 5 of them back with his dark magic. "I shall punish you later," he told them before getting to the situation at hand. "But first, my power is being threatened. This will not stand." The Shredder channeled as much of his own inner dark magic as he could into his receding spell that had been turned against him. Already the bright white dome had turned back into its original dark red before the Shredder had manifested his dragon avatar form at the top of the dome. With a roar, he channeled all the magic he could to not only further increase the dome, but even hijack onto the energy that connected to the 5 keystones and channeled his own dark energy into them. Not only did the dark dome increase at an even faster rate, but the Shredder's dark energy had reached all 5 of the keystones as one by one, they rejected the energy from each of the heroes. First was Raph and Toph at the Brooklyn Bridge before they were blown back along with the metal-bending student trio. Next was Katara and Mikey at Manny's Meats before they, along with Hakoda, Ty Lee, and Bato were also blown back. Third was the Keystone at the United Nations before Dawn and Sokka were rejected and blown back with Splinter, Suki, and Leatherhead. Fourth was at the High Line, where Leo, Azula, and Zuko were blasted away from their Keystone along with Iroh and Mai. Finally, at the Statue of Liberty, Aang was also rejected by the Keystone and blasted back with Karai, Usagi, Kori, Jen, the Ancient One, and even Appa was blown back. When the dust settled, all of New York had been transformed into the hellish domain of the Demon Shredder, and most of the state was likely transformed as well. The Statue of Liberty had been transformed into a statue resembling demonic succubus with a sword and shield. As Kori, Usagi, Jen, Karai, and the Ancient One helped themselves up, along with Appa, Aang looked around in sheer terror at the new landscape that laid before him. To say it was something out of his worst nightmares wouldn't do it justice. No, 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 no. How could this have happened? Aang exclaimed in panic before his eyes widened in shock. The guys, he tried to get in contact with all his friends. Katara, Leo, everyone, are you all okay? We're okay, Aang. We're fine. Katara was the first to make contact, with Aang sighing in relief. We're good too. Zuko checked in, still in one piece. Dawn made contact. We're alive, that's about all I can say. Raph said for his team as well. Though Aang was glad to hear his friends were all right, it didn't deter the fact that they had all failed in their mission. Master Splinter, what just happened? Leo contacted Splinter. We have lost this battle. Splinter responded. Come, let us regroup. We must find another way to fight the Shredder. Alright, we'll all meet up at the lair. Aang said before hanging up. He fell to his knees with a yell as he pounded his fist onto the ground in frustration. So close. We were so close. His frustrations came to an end however as he felt a hand on his shoulder. Aang looked up to see it was Karai, who was giving him a reassured look, but underneath it, Aang could read the message she was silently telling him as they had only one other option left. And it was one that the Avatar did not approve of in the slightest. The Tengu Shredder sat triumphantly in his twisted throne within his palace. Fools. To think that they could actually stand against me. Did they not realize who I am? This city is mine. And soon, the world. And then, the entire cosmos. Ha, 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 ha. Chapter 14. War of Light and Darkness. The forest was as cold as one could expect on such a bleak and barren night. The only occupant seemed to be the Tengu Shredder himself who rode on his demonic horse, which gave off a monstrous animalistic call as it treed through the woods. The Shredder's bone-chilling laugh echoed everywhere as he lunged his spear forward. No. Master Splinter was startled from his meditation, looking around frantically as he remembered he was in his personal chambers, along with Iroh and the Ancient One, both of them looking concerned toward the Rat Master. The dream again? Iroh asked Splinter. You even see it while awake now. Splinter nodded gravely. Stronger than ever before. Not a good sign, Iroh commented as he stroked his beard. With every passing second, the Shredder's influence spreads. The Ancient One stated. The more the world falls to him, the greater his power. And it's safe to say he won't stop with just this world. Iroh said. April then walked into the chambers. Master Splinter, the guys are about to make contact. Good. Splinter understood. Please, remind them to be careful. April nodded as she left, leaving the old masters to attend to the other young woman currently with them. Well, young lady, do you believe you are ready for what you must do? The Ancient One asked Karai. We may have no other choice. Karai stated. Karai, I want you to think long and hard about this. Iroh told her with concern. It's not just the matter of absorbing the Shredder's dark influence, it's essentially what you must do in order to be able to perform this feat. Karai herself looked away slightly. I've been trying to ignore the fact that I'm my father's daughter. But it is something I must come to terms with, especially since the fate of the cosmos literally depends upon it. She closed her eyes with a sigh before opening them to reveal the determined expression on her face. I'm ready. Meanwhile, back on the surface, as New York was already under the Shredder's rule, it wasn't uncommon to see demons and undead soldiers patrolling the streets and even skies. But it did seem odd to see a large group of stone Oni digging their way deep underground toward a base that was underneath the city. This base was the New York headquarters of the Earth Protection Force, and the outer dome was about to be breached by these massive stone beings that pounded and tore off the armor plating, only to be on the receiving end of laser fire from the EPF soldiers inside. Bishop, the Dark Turtles, Stockman, and several other EPF commandos were holed up in the base, in what appeared to be a last stand as nearly all of them were armed with lasers, doing what they could to keep out the monsters outside. Our generators are at 15%. Dark Dawn reported as he looked at a console. These things will break through in less than 2 minutes. The last wave of creatures took out 2 squadrons of commandos. Bishop also reported. What the hell are dealing with here, exactly? Dark Leo questioned as he shot a laser rifle into a hole to keep out a stone Oni. They ain't aliens, that's for sure. Dark Raph said as he held a Gatling gun and fired into a larger hole at the top. Maybe they're the boogeymen. Dark Mikey said for the heck of it as he threw a grenade out in one hole, but it did little to stop the intruders. What are these beasts? What's happening to this city? Bishop questioned as he saw the enemy was about to breach through their outer defenses. I require answers, he stated to Stockman and the Dark Turtles. Hey, don't look at us. Dark Leo stated. This isn't our fault. This time, Dark Mikey added. We can't hold them much longer. One commando reported as he and his squadron did their best to shoot and keep the stone Oni out, but they could barely slow them down. They're coming in. However, when one stone Oni was about to force its way in, it suddenly exploded, much to the surprise of Bishop, the Dark Turtles, Stockman, and the rest of their forces. The group heard the sounds of battle outside as they saw through the holes more explosions, gusts of purple wind, and beams of silver light. After a minute, the sounds of fighting came to a stop. Deciding to check it out, Bishop, the Dark Turtles, and Stockman led their team of commandos toward the nearest hole. Bishop and Dark Leo were the first to step out and observe the area, seeing all the stone Oni in pieces, but what caught their attention was a ringing shell cell on the ground. Bishop, albeit hesitantly, picked up the phone and answered it. I'm listening. The Purple Dragon headquarters, like the rest of Manhattan, had also been transformed on the outside. Fortunately for Hun and all his forces, all their guns and weaponry were still normal and functional. Those undead uglies want a fight. Well, they've got one, Hun stated as he and his men began to arm themselves with Federation blasters, and any other type of weapon they've stocked up on. Time to break out the heavy artillery. However, none of them, not even the one purple dragon on the balcony above Hun, noticed a ceiling opening up from above him, nor did he notice a rock hitting his face to knock him unconscious. Hun, likewise, felt something hit his head. Ow. What the? He looked up to see the purple dragon unconscious, before looking down to see what hit him. It was a shell cell with a sticky note that had the drawn smirking face of a certain blind earthbender. Once the shell cell rang, Hun picked it up and answered it. This had better be good. Elsewhere, a couple screamed as they were cornered in an alleyway by a pack of Kappa Tengu. Fortunately, salvation came in the form of Silver Sentry, who flew in to take down the frontmost demon with his own speed and strength. The second one was quickly neutralized as well by Raptor, who flew in and grabbed the Kappa before flying high up and throwing it toward the ground. Two more Kappa attempted to get to the cornered couple. But nobody, and Metalhead had leapt down from the building toward them. Metalhead extended his metal hair to pierce and kill the Kappa he landed on, while nobody slammed his feet onto the second one's face to knock it down. The remaining three growled and were ready to rush them, as well as Raptor, who was attempting to get the couple to safety. However, the three Kappa Tengu were quickly beaten down by the return of Silver Sentry, who wielded his spear and shield. Even though most of New York had been evacuated once the Turtles and their allies informed them of the Shredder's resurrection, the Justice Force had been working to gather any civilians that had been left behind. But with the Shredder's influence only spreading even further across the Earth, it made any of them wonder if there was any place on the planet that could be considered safe. However, Raptor noticed something in the sky. "Everyone, look." The rest of his teammates saw a large stream of water shoot up from the top of one building before it exploded like a makeshift firework. This also drew them toward a signal that was shined in the sky that had the symbol TT on it, which the Silver Sentry recognized. "Turtle Titan, come on." He and his teammates followed the signal. Meanwhile, closer to the Shredder's fortress, Casey hung by an alleyway as he saw the walled-off area of the Citadel. He took out his own shell cell to contact the rest of his team. "Yo, this is Casey. North side's completely walled off. I don't see no way in. South end is closed off too." Mike contacted back. "Same here on the east side." Suki reported in. "There's no door on the west side either." Ty Lee also made contact. "I get this thing is supposed to be an impenetrable fortress and all, but you'd think he'd have a gate or something." "Probably doesn't need one since he can fly." Mai replied. "Oh, right," Ty Lee said back. "But without a gate, there's no way for us to tell what's on the other side of that wall." Suki reported. "But my best guess, all sorts of terrifying and powerful demons." "Then let's head back to home base, ladies," Casey said. "I'll send a text to the guys and let 'em know." He retreated further into the alleyway. At the Nexus Shrine, while Bato, Corey, Jen, and the Metalbender students stood at the entranceway, keeping an eye out for any demons that might show up, Zuko, Azula, Hakoda, and Usagi had a map laid out of the Shredder's fortress that they had already scouted, though they got a few confirmed texts from Casey's group letting them know how walled off the fortress was. "It's surrounded from all sides," Zuko said as they looked at the map. "A more tactical approach would be to come in from the sky. But with legions of flying demons patrolling the skies, that will be considerably more difficult," Usagi put in. "Then it seems we'll just have to force our way in," Hakoda said. "It is safe to assume, however, that the worst of the worst is behind that wall," Azula commented. "And that's not even counting the mystics and their master." "True," Usagi agreed. "Without knowing the details of our enemy, we're essentially going in blind. And I don't think stealth is an option either. Even with the Justice Force, Purple Dragons, and EPF working with us and the allies we currently have, it might not be enough," Zuko said somewhat gravely. "We need an army." Suddenly, the Nexus Shrine began to glow, indicating that someone was accessing its mystic portal system from the other side. A large portal began to open as the group saw many familiar silhouettes. Hakoda smirked. "Looks like we just got an army." Zuko and Azula shared similar smiles with each other, as they too began to feel that they had a chance to win the coming battle. Meanwhile, in a massive underground chamber, close to where the ancient Ulintian city used to be, that Aang and Toph had built via their earthbending, Leo and Aang waited for their friends to report back. Among them included Appa and Momo. Both Flying Bosom and Lemur flew throughout the massive chamber that was big enough to enable them to fly, at least relatively compared to being outside. "I don't like this," Aang voiced his opinion. "Neither do I, but we've tried everything else," Leo said. "There might not be any other way. And you know just how much of a threat the Shredder represents to all of us." "I know, but I still don't have to like it," Aang replied. "Not just with the lives we're putting in danger, but what she has to do. I know that it might be the only way to stop him, but..." Leo put a hand on his surrogate brother's shoulder in understanding. We'll make it through this. All of us. Yo, we're back. Toph's voice rang out as the duo looked to see her and the rest of their closest friends, Katara, Raph, Sokka, Zuko, Mikey, Dawn, and Azula, all enter the chamber as Appa and Momo sat down to greet them along with Leo and Aang. Well, Leo asked. Everyone from the Nexus has arrived and should be here shortly. Azula reported. We also got everyone else on the way here. Dawn said. I still can't believe we're actually working with Hun and Bishop of all people. Katara muttered in a tone, indicating she did not approve. I hear ya, sister. Raph agreed. But we ain't got a choice. I've also looked over the plan you guys all texted me. I think we have a shot at pulling this off. Sokka said. That's assuming we aren't eaten alive first. Mikey pointed out. Way to be optimistic, Mikey. Toph said sarcastically as she punched his arm. Ow. Mikey rubbed his sore arm. By the way, before we get started, Zuko removed Gunshin from his person and handed it to a certain blue-clad turtle. Leo, maybe you should wield this. Zuko, I can't. Leo tried to refuse it. You are Gunshin's rightful owner. But you've shown you are capable of using it. Zuko insisted. I'm already a firebender, I can handle myself. And we need all the advantages we can get, that includes you wielding this. Though unsure at first, Leo saw Zuko's point. So, with a somewhat reluctant smile, Leo accepted the blade. You honor me, my friend. Well, looky what we got here. A new and familiar voice spoke out as the group turned expectantly to one of the entrances Toph and Aang had made previously to see Hun and a team of purple dragons step into the cavern. We come at a bad time. Hey honey bunny, you miss us. Though the purple dragons were surprised, the acolytes weren't to see Dark Mikey chuckling as he stepped out of another entranceway alongside Bishop, the other Dark Turtles, a group of EPF soldiers, and even Stockman, who appeared in a new robotic body that seemed more like a miniature tank than anything else. You invited Hun? Stockman questioned in surprise. You must be desperate. Control yourselves. Bishop told Stockman and the turtle clones. We're here on business. But, while we're on that subject, what's to stop any of us from finally eliminating you brats right here and now? Dark Dawn questioned as he and his brothers seemed more than eager to fight the turtles and Team Avatar. How about all of us? This came from Hakoda as he stood on a highly elevated stone platform alongside a large gathering of friends and allies including Bato, Usagi, Jen, the Metalbender students, Cory, April, Casey, Mai, Suki, Ty Lee, and the rest of their fellow Kyoshi warriors. Among them were the Justice Force, consisting of Silver Sentry, Stainless Steel Stan, Nano, Nobody, Raptor, Zippy Lad, Ananda, Chrysalis, Tsunami, and Metalhead. There were also those among the White Lotus including Bumi, Paku, Piendo, and Jung Jung. Even other friends from the four nations including the Freedom Fighters, such as Smellerby, Longshot, Pipsqueak, and the Duke, the Swambenders including Du, Huu, and Tho, and even other friends like Chitsang, Haru, Tyro, the Mechanist, and Teo. Looks like everyone's here, Zuko said, getting everything started. Listen up everyone. Aang called out to everyone gathered as he and his friends stood in the center. We asked you all here because we are all facing the same threat, the one responsible for the transformation of New York, and eventually the whole world, the original Shredder, from the ancient times of this world. His power grows with each passing second, and it won't stop till he consumes this entire world. And he won't even stop there. He'll gain access to the Nexus to not only spread his evil through all our worlds, but every world, every dimension. It doesn't matter what we all were before, Fire Nation, Water Tribe, Earth Kingdom, Foot, Purple Dragons, Earth Protection Force, mutants, humans, friends or enemies, we're all in this together. Though this did get the interest of everyone present, there were a few skeptics among them. I can see why all you chumps are in trouble but doesn't have anything to do with me. Hun pointed out. Or us either. Dark Leo said as he and his brothers stepped forward. Hun and the four of us did okay with the last Shredder. And he was a scrawny, shriveled up, alien bug. Dark Raph added. Yeah, why do we have to stick our necks out? Dark Mikey also questioned. Why not sign on with this old school buckethead? It could be fun. It doesn't look like those who served the Utrom Shredder are welcome in the new world of the Demon Shredder. Leo replied. And we should believe you, because? Dark Dawn asked. You all had better believe it. Karai stepped forward, clad in armor that seemed similar to that of her father as well, along with Master Splinter, Iroh, the Ancient One, Chaplain, Leatherhead, and several of her own foot forces. I have the scars to prove it. Even Azula stepped forward. The demon shredder tore apart the old fortress of the foot in less than a minute. If you all really want to take the easy way out and kiss his feet to join him, go right ahead. But I promise, if he doesn't tear you to pieces, I most certainly will. This certainly got the attention of Hun and the Dark Turtles, and seemed enough to convince them that the Shredder will not show them any mercy. There was also the fact that they were surrounded by at least 100 enemies that would detain them all without a moment's notice. Karai herself has an important role to play in all of this. Master Splinter explained. It seems that all who take the mantle of the Shredder unknowingly create a link with the very same ancient and malignant energies we battle today. For this battle, Karai has chosen to adopt the role of the Shredder. Iroh also said, referring to the armor she was wearing. Her friends all looked to her with concerning looks, though they all knew it was likely necessary, they didn't have to like it. And in doing so, has inherited that link, which we intend to use to our advantage in the coming battle. Sounds like a bunch of mystical nonsense. Dark Dawn seemed skeptical. Even Hun was in agreement. Are you really gonna go along with all this mumbo-jumbo, Karai? Mumbo-jumbo. Toph called out. What do you idiots call what's been happening to this city? Believe it or not, magic is real, and it can either help us or kill us. It is true. Karai spoke to her former colleagues, Hun and the Dark Turtles. I have seen enough of the mystic nature of this world to make me a believer, and through meditation, I have indeed discovered the energy link between myself and our mutual enemy. With that, it seemed that everyone was on board. So, what's your plan? Bishop asked, getting right down to business. The Shredder is a Tengu, a demon. The Ancient One began to explain. Its essence has never been destroyed, but his physical form is vulnerable. 3 artifacts were united to bring the Shredder back to life. Iroh explained as well. His helmet, gauntlet, and body. If we're able to separate them once more, he should be significantly weakened. Of course, getting to him is going to be an issue. Zuko stepped forward. We've scouted the area, his fortress is surrounded by a wall from all sides, with hordes of undead soldiers patrolling the area and even demons in the sky. But we have a plan for that. Sokka stepped up next. With the numbers we have on our side, we'll tunnel underground via earthbending and completely surround the fortress. Once that's done, we'll break out onto the streets for a surprise attack. Earthbenders will then use their abilities to erect platforms to propel the attack force straight to the fortress, plowing their way through the cannon fodder. Azula also stepped up. Firebenders, waterbenders, and other long-ranged fighters will deal with any enemies that try to stop us. We've also assembled an air team to keep the skies clear. Leo said. Once we're close enough, the earthbenders and other heavy hitters will break the walls down and we'll go in guns and swords blazing. A team consisting of myself, my brothers, the Avatar, Zuko, Katara, Toph, Sokka, Azula, and Karai will enter the fortress and attack Shredder himself. And to aid in that attack, I will use my link with the Shredder to drain away as much of his dark energy into myself as I can take, further weakening him. Karai spoke. But whatever battles we've all been in before, Aang gave a warning. Even what many of us experienced during the Day of Black Sun, or even Sozin's Comet, they are nothing compared to what we're about to go up against. Legions of undead ninja, hordes of demons of all shapes and sizes, not to mention the 5 mystics. Everyone, be they friend or family, look towards one another with concern and even visible fear. This would undoubtedly be the most difficult battle any of them have ever faced before, and not all of them might make it out alive. Needless to say, it wasn't going to be pretty. You must all be prepared for the very worst. Splinter stated. We face the Shredder, the greatest evil to ever walk the earth. This will be the fight of our lives. Appa flew straight towards the Shredder's palace. The only occupants aside from the Avatar himself at Appa's head were Leo and Zuko in the saddle, along with Aang's beloved pet lemur on his shoulder. The moment Aang's eyes set on the dreaded fortress, he knew it was time to get serious. Momo, time for you to go. Aang told his lemur, who flew off. Leo and Zuko both saw the flying demons that gave alarming calls once they saw the flying bison. This is it, Zuko stated. Leo nodded as he accessed his comms. Go. Attack now. Suddenly, a massive tremor hit the entire fortress as a ring of the ground that surrounded the wall to the palace caved in, taking several undead soldiers with it. Once the dust settled, it revealed the entire united army that the Turtles and Team Avatar had guttered. The entire Order of the White Lotus, warriors from the southern and northern water tribes and even the Foggy Swamp tribe, soldiers of the Earth Kingdom and Fire Nation, pretty much everyone from the Purple Dragon Syndicate, all of Karai's forces within the Foot, the Earth Protection Force, the Justice Force, and all their friends and allies and former enemies that they had made over the years. They were all gathered together and ready to face their common enemy together. Appa flew closer to the ground as he hovered over the group consisting of Katara, Raph, Azula, Mikey, Sokka, Dawn, Toph, Master Splinter, Iroh, and the Ancient One. Aang, Leo, and Zuko stood over Appa as Leo raised Gunshin in the air and fired a stream of white flame for everyone in the perimeter to see and signal the attack as even Aang gave the battle cry. Attack! The Avatar called as Appa, while still carrying Aang, Zuko, and Leo on board took to the air along with their assembled air team consisting of Silver Sentry, Chrysalis, Raptor, and Ananda in her dome bot led the attack. At the same time, all the selected Earthbenders, including Toph, Boomy, the Boulder, Hippo, and several others used their earthbending to erect several large earth plates, each one carrying at least 24 soldiers or heroes on board, and shot directly toward the fortress. It worked exactly as planned as the earth platforms easily plowed through the undead soldiers that attempted to stand in their way. When other soldiers, or even smaller type demons, tried to ambush the platforms from the sides or behind, firebenders, waterbenders, or long-ranged fighters who used guns or arrows, used their respective abolites or weapons to beat them back with relative ease. Multiple flying demons soared over the wall and split off into two groups. The largest group attempted to strike from above, but like with those on the ground, long-ranged fighters easily shot them out of the sky with streaks of fire, water tendrils, laser fire, bullets, arrows, or even the occasional throwing knife and boomerang. Even the other acolytes, including Raph, Katara, Azula, Mikey, Sokka, Dawn, and Toph used their abilities to clear out all the demons from the sky that attempted to swarm them. The remaining flying demons shot towards the incoming air team. But Appa flew in first, using his horned head to beat away the frontmost demons before swinging his tail to send an airwave to knock down several more. Aang likewise spun his feet, pointed upward, to generate a cyclone to blow away any more demons. Zuko and Leo also provide some cover, with Leo blasting columns and waves of white flames from Gunshin, or Zuko with his own natural firebending. Likewise, Silver Sentry also flew in to use his own strength to punch and beat down any demon that got too close as he was backed up by Chrysalis and Ananda in her dome bot who used psychic waves or missiles respectively for the same purpose. Already, the ground force was at the wall as the Earthbenders dropped their platforms. Dawn was already on his comms to speak with everyone assigned to the demolition group. Okay, everyone, time to bring it down. Even Bishop was on board as he directed his cyborg scientist. Doctor, back them up. Once again, my genius used like a blunt weapon. Stockman said in an annoyed tone. Bring it down, Earthbenders. Toph exclaimed as she and Raph were the first attack with their respective mystic weapons and abilities, striking at the wall. All the Earthbenders, including Boomy, Toph's metal-bending students, and everyone else, struck the wall with their fists at the same time as Stockman also fired his lasers at the wall's structural integrity that was already beginning to collapse. In that one instant, the entire wall collapsed as the Earthbenders quickly erected shields from the ground to block the debris from impacting all their friends and comrades. The walls were quickly brought down as Appa and the rest of the airstrike team set down closer to the ground to face the small army of demons consisting of Kappa Tengu, Nezumi, Stone Oni, and several others. Oh shell. Mikey winced. We gonna do this or what? Raph asked as everyone charged forward, blasting elements, shooting guns, and wielding swords along with any other type of weapon to clash with the demon army. Meanwhile, back in the lair, April was at the monitors when she heard a familiar voice call to her. Is this a private party or can anyone join? Casey asked as he set his equipment down and walked toward her. Casey. April looked in surprise. You didn't go with the others. I was about to, Casey answered as he kneeled to her level. But when Leo said someone had to hang around and watch your back while you were stuck here, monitoring the satellite feed, I thought to myself, the only thing I love more than bashing some bad guy heads, is you. He said with a smile. April smiled back as eyes began to water. Oh Casey, you big lug. They shared an embrace together. The Shredder's fortress. Outside their master's throne room, the five mystics watched the warzone unfold just outside the palace. Suffice to say, they were not pleased with any of this. Where is the Shredder? The fire mystic questioned. They attack and the Shredder does nothing. The Shredder spreads himself too thin. The metal mystic stated in agreement. He should destroy the Avatar and the turtles, instead of playing these games. Oh, someone's about to be destroyed alright, but it ain't us. The doorway was blown off the hinges, courtesy of Toph, as she stood alongside Leo, Aang, Raph, Katara, Mikey, Sokka, Dawn, Zuko, Karai, Azula, Master Splinter, Iroh, the Ancient One, Mai, Ty Lee, and Suki. You five have hurt us and caused us so much trouble. Katara stated. Manipulating us, attacking us. Guess what? It's payback time. Dawn stated as they each drew their respective weapons. The five mystics likewise readied their respective elements, though they didn't seem intimidated. And what can you hope to accomplish against us? The water mystic questioned. Indeed, even if you are stronger than before, you cannot truly defeat us. The earth mystic agreed. The Avatar won't allow that. The wind mystic said mockingly. The only way to truly defeat us, is to destroy us entirely. And the Avatar will never take a life. Isn't that right, Aang? The fire mystic sneered. Everyone glared at the mystics, even Aang before he spoke. You're right, I'm not a killer. But here's the thing, you five aren't truly living beings, just sentient constructs of elemental magic, right Karai? Aang asked his friend. Indeed, Karai confirmed, which means, we can destroy you. Aang declared as his amulet began to glow, along with his arrow tattoos. And I'm perfectly fine with that. The mystics all growled as they launched a massive combined attack of fire, water, wind, earth, and metal straight for the group, but Aang had leapt to the front to catch the attack with his hands, at first using his Kai to enhance himself and use all four bending styles at once before quickly utilizing his energy bending to pull more of the elemental power towards himself in the form of a condensed sphere of elemental power, pulling all the energy he could from the mystics. What is happening? The metal mystic exclaimed as they felt their own power being drained. Our power. How are you doing this? The fire mystic questioned. It's called energy bending. Aang explained as he absorbed more of the mystic's power into the condensed sphere in his hands. I'm taking a majority of your own power, he said as he finished absorbing what he needed to, severely weakening the mystics before throwing the pulsating elemental sphere through the ceiling, where it exploded in the air to disperse all the absorbed elemental powers. Weakened, the five mystics fell to their knees. Most of the fire, water, and wind around the respective mystics had been drained significantly, while the earth mystic looked to be barely holding himself together, and the metal mystic's body looked incredibly frail. Attack, now! Karai ordered as they all charged at their weakened enemies. The earth mystic was the first to try and get up and attack. However, Mikey had leapt forward to strike with Inazuma, sending a bolt of orange lightning to blast him back. He tried to get up to face the charging Mai, who leapt at him to land a kick in his face before throwing a series of knives at him to force him back as he crossed his arms to defend himself. Toph and Raph both appeared on his sides as they each slammed Yama and Banrai onto the ground, sending a red surge of thunder and a green energy tremor across the ground to cross each other underneath the earth mystic, where his body exploded into rubble and pebbles. The fire mystic tried to generate as much fire as he could as he tried to throw it at Ty Lee, who leapt over the flames to land in front of the fire mystic and strike his arms at precise points to Kai block his body. Katara ran forward to fire a series of water arrows from Arashi which pierced through his body, while wrapping around him to further immobilize him, leaving him open for Azula to rush past him, slicing with Hino Arashi, to thoroughly freeze him inside and out before Azula dealt a back kick to shatter the frozen fire mystic completely. The water mystic tried to defend himself as Suki ran towards him, unsheathing her sword to slice off his water arms before Sokka thrusted Hikari forward to send a beam of silver light to pierce through the water mystic's chest, leaving him open for Dawn to deal the finishing blow as he spun by Akko to generate a purple whirlwind to blast the watery remains away for good. Zuko, Iroh, and Leo all faced the Wind Mystic as Leo thrusted Gunshin forward to send a column of white flame, while Iroh blasted a fire stream from his mouth, catching the Wind Mystic in a blazing cross stream. Zuko then proceeded to spin his fingers in a familiar fashion as lightning began to appear before the young Fire Lord thrusted his fingers forward to send a bolt of lightning straight at the blazing Wind Mystic, destroying him in a fantastic explosion. The Metal Mystic was all that was left, backing away in fear, only for Master Splinter and the Ancient One to appear from behind and grab him by his right and left arm respectively. With his metal body already so frail, both Splinter and the Ancient One dealt a powerful kick that snapped off his metal arms and knocked the Mystic onto the ground, leaving him open for Karai to rush him with her magic tech sword and slice him in half down the middle, killing him. Guess the Foot Mystics have been outbended. Sokka joked. Boom. Magic bending slice. Good riddance. Azula commented with a satisfied smile that wasn't unfounded by everyone else. Even Aang, though he didn't feel any joy from it, did feel satisfied as well. Yeah, I gotta say, destroying those guys felt good. Mikey smiled. Absolutely. Mai nodded with a smile. Totally. Toph smirked. No arguments here. Katara also commented. Don't let your guard down just yet. Leo told the group. Now for the hard part. Getting into there. He addressed everyone toward the gate at the end of the chamber that had the foot symbol placed on it. The Shredder's throne room. However, the door opened itself as a familiar chuckle was heard. Instantly, everyone was on guard as they drew their respective weapons to face the demon inside. It won't be necessary to break through. The Shredded told them in a seemingly welcoming tone. Come right in, I have been waiting. The Tengu Shredder stood up from his throne as he causally walked into the chambers, allowing everyone to see him. All the acolytes, as well as Karai, though ready to fight, were nervous just by looking at him. Iroh, Splinter, and the Ancient One, glared at the ancient demon. However, in the case of Mai, Suki, and Ty Lee, who were seeing him for the first time, appeared nothing short of terrified, especially Ty Lee who shivered at the sight of him. His aura, Ty Lee stuttered. It's so, pitch black, such evil. Flattery will get you nowhere. The Shredder replied before turning towards the Avatar. You impress me, young Aang. I knew you survived our previous encounter, but I had not expected you to recover so quickly. Even more so, you and your young friends have rallied an enormous force to challenge me. If nothing else, you've proven how defiant you are. Yeah, we're all kinds of stubborn. Aang replied. Stubborn in the fact we'll never abandon our friends, or give up the fight, especially to you. The Shredder only scoffed in amusement. Which will make it all the more satisfying as I rip each of you apart limb from limb, and feed what's left of your allies to my demonic hordes. You are each powerful, but you have no concept of true power. You cannot stop me. We will not allow you to have this world, Shredder. Splinter stated. It ends here, demon. The only thing ending here, rat, is you. The Shredder stated as his dark magic began to surge through his body, his soul-piercing red eyes flaring, the evil demon giving a deep and dark laugh, ready to relish in the bloodbath that he was about to unleash on them all. In response, all the acolytes began to channel their Kai as each of their amulets began to glow and their respective aura and markings were shining brightly. Remember the plan, Leo told his friends and family. We have to separate the helmet and gauntlet from the Shredder, no matter what. Let's do this, now. With that, each of them went on the attack. First, Leo thrusted Gunshin forward to send a massive column of white flame forward. Zuko channeled his mystic Kai into his firebending as it began to shift and change into its rainbow colors before thrusting the multicolored flame forward as well. Raph crossed his Banrai blades to shoot out a surge of red thunder. Toph slammed Yama onto the ground to send forth a green energized tremor across the ground. Dawn spun by Akko before thrusting the spear end forward to blast a condensed cyclone of purple wind. Sokka thrusted Hikari to blast a beam of silver light. Katara aimed and shot a multitude of water arrows from Arashi that condensed into a single mystic water strike. Mikey spun Inazuma to send a hail of orange lightning bolts. Azula thrusted both clawed gauntlets of Hino Arashi for a dual blast of ice-cold fire and lightning. Finally, Aang pulled in as much elements as he could, air from all around him, water from the pool along the side, earth from the ground below him, and fire from a thrust of his right fist, he condensed all 4 elements together before unleashing it all in the form of a gargantuan blast. All 10 mystic elemental attacks converged on the Tengu Shredder, who attempted to block it all with a barrier of dark magic. However, the force was enough to send him skidding on his feet, crashing and pinning his back against the wall. But he was far from done as he pushed back with all his might. I think they got him pretty distracted, Mike commented as she, Suki, and Ty Lee walked back to join Karai, Iroh, Splinter, and the Ancient One who initiated the second phase of their plan. Now is the time, Karai. Splinter spoke to her. You must focus your energies. Feel the Shredder, sap him of his power. We will help you, the Ancient One said as he, Splinter, and Iroh sat down along with Karai meditatively. He must be weakened for the others to remove his helmet and gauntlet from him, Iroh stated. Karai tried to meditate and concentrate, trying to feel the presence of the Shredder somewhere in her being. However, the second she found it, an ominous green aura began to flow around her body. She had found it, now all she had to do was reach out and take as much of the demon's power into herself as she could. Meanwhile, the Shredder himself had enough of this as he unleashed a powerful blast of dark magic to blow away the acolytes, attacks and send them sliding back on the balls of their feet as he stood tall. Weak fools. Even together, you are all powerless, the Shredder proclaimed. However, he began to feel his own energy drain. What? Tendrils of his dark magic had begun to leak out of his body and flow towards Karai, much to his surprise, as well as their friends. Hey, I think it's working, Sokka stated. Come on Karai, drain him dry, Azula told her as Karai tried to take in as much of his dark energy as she could. You drain my power, the Shredder questioned in disbelief. Shell yeah, suck it Buckethead, Toph pointed to him with a triumphant smirk. As Karai continued to drain the Shredder's power, Hakoda, Bishop, Chaplain, Stockman, Hun, and the Silver Sentry had made their way inside as well. Aang looked towards Karai as he could see she was clearly struggling and could already tell that the sentient dark influence was slowly trying to sway Karai, and though she resisted, it would only be a matter of time till she was corrupted the same way Oroku Sake was. Karai, that's enough. Stop, Aang tried to tell her. Ultimately, it seemed too much for her to take in as she was forced out of her meditation and brought down to her hands and knees, taking multiple raspy breaths as though she had just emerged from being underwater for so long. Immediately, Mai, Ty Lee, and Suki were the first to tend to her, followed by Leo, Aang, and Zuko. The Shredder himself appeared to be in a similar state as he fell flat on the ground, seemingly defeated. Feeling cocky, Hun walked up towards the downed Tengu Shredder. So much for your big boogie man. I thought he'd be scarier, the way you freaks described him. He kicked the Shredder's arm to check if he was dead, but that was not the case. Hun, get out of there, now, Raph exclaimed as the Shredder's eyes opened. What's the big? The Shredder suddenly reached up to grab Hun by the shirt. Oh crud. The Tengu Shredder, still as powerful as ever, shot into the air along with Hun as he glared at the muscle-bound crime lord, who looked more afraid than ever. Pathetic creatures. How dare you? The Shredder threw Hun straight toward the ground, but Aang was quick to catch him with his airbending. Silver Sentry tried to fly up and attack the Shredder directly, but the demon caught the superhero's fist with minimal effort. Silver Sentry tried to push further against the Shredder, but he only squeezed harder before throwing Silver Sentry straight upward through the skylight. Chapin, Stockman, and Bishop tried to blast their guns at the Shredder while Hakoda drew a spear to throw himself. However, the Shredder used his magic to erect a barrier that blocked all the projectiles rather easily before he unleashed a wave of his magic to blast all of them back. What's going on? I thought this dude was supposed to be drained, Mikey exclaimed. Karai. Katara looked toward her, hoping she knew the answer as Ty Lee, Mai, and Suki tried to help her up. His power, she struggled to get back on her feet. I was only able to take at least 5, maybe 7% at most. 7%. Dawn, Mai, Sokka, and Suki exclaimed at the same time. So much evil, I can't. I'm sorry. Karai apologized as everyone else, even Aang and Azula, looked up toward the Tengu Shredder in clear fear as he still appeared to have plenty of power to spare, evident by the massive surge of dark magic glowing around him. Ah, I am pleased. The Tengu Shredder said. I had worried that assuming control of this world would be boring. But, if the other worlds across the Nexus have warriors like yourselves, facing and defeating them all will give me enough of a thrill to keep me amused through each conquest. However, if I am to vanquish all of you and properly enjoy myself while I do so, we require a larger arena. He began to generate a massive sphere of his dark magic. Alright, change in plans. Leo stated to his fellow acolytes. First, we take the helmet and gauntlet, then Kurai drains his power. Attack. Leo ordered as he and his teammates attempted to charge the Shredder, who had already unleashed his attack, which took the form of a powerful, dark green, energy vortex that had begun to surge all around him. No, my sons. Wait. Splinter, along with Iroh and the Ancient One, tried to run in and stop them, but it was too late. Aang, Leo, and Katara were the first to be sucked into the vortex, followed by Raph, Zuko, and Toph, along with Mikey, Sokka, Don, and Azula. Even Splinter, Iroh, and the Ancient One were pulled into the vortex as well. Katara, Sokka, Hakoda looked in shock as he saw his children and their friends get pulled into the swirling vortex. He would have run in after them had Hun not grabbed his shoulder and tried to pull him away. Are you nuts? You wanna get sucked up in that thing? Hun exclaimed. Kurai desperately tried to get into a meditative stance once more and continue draining the Shredder's power, despite the vortex being just inches away from her. Kurai. Chaplin called to her as Ty Lee was already trying to run in, but Bishop grabbed her to prevent her from getting close. Let me go. We can't leave her. Ty Lee struggled in his grip. We have to pull back. Bishop exclaimed as Hun, the struggling Hakoda, and Stockman were already attempting to fall back as well. Chaplin however was already running towards Kurai, but the second he touched her, the dark magic she was attempting to absorb had shocked him and knocked him down. Mai and Suki quickly ran and tried to pull him away as well right as Kurai was sucked into the vortex. The Shredder gave a loud and maddened laugh as he unleashed a surge of his dark power, causing the vortex to explode in tremendous fashion. Most of the top of his fortress had already been obliterated in the explosion. However, everyone who was sucked inside the vortex was still alive as Aang, Leo, Katara, Don, Sokka, Raph, Toph, Mikey, Zuko, and Azula all fell and landed hard in a small clearing within the dark woods that lay just outside the demonic fortress. Oh man, Sokka felt his head as everyone tried to pick themselves up. Did anyone catch the number of that ancient demon that ran us down? Don said to put some humor into this otherwise bleak situation. Where the shell are we, now? Raph questioned in irritation. Looks like just outside the palace. Azula noted as they could still see the fortress just above the trees. He said he wanted a larger arena, this must be it. Zuko was among the first to get serious as everyone tried to circle up so they wouldn't be caught off guard. I can't sense him. Where is he? Toph questioned in a tone mixing irritation and nervousness. He's here somewhere. He's only playing with us. Leo stated as a sweat drop flowed down his face. So much for our plan. Mikey said in a tone indicating he was quite scared. Looks like we're gonna have to do this the hard way. Katara commented. Aang's eyes widened as he heard what could only be described as demonic neighing. He's here. He's coming. Everyone turned to the source of the sound to see the Tengu Shredder wielding a spear as he rode a demonic horse, black and red flames at the beast's hooves as it ran before stopping briefly to address the heroes. It has been fun, and it promises to be even more so as I end your lives. The Tengu Shredder said in a sadistically joyous fashion. Mustering up as much courage as they could, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Team Avatar drew their respective weapons or took combative stances as they faced the laughing demon Shredder who charged forward on his steed, ready to end this fight once and for all. And this is the end of Season 2 Part 7 of this What If. I hope you guys like it. Don't really leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel.